Hate to break it to you guys, but you missed the boat. All the land sold up here in North Idaho. There's nothing left. Or is there? Stick around. Eric and I are going to break it down for you with some numbers and some anecdotal evidence on what's going on here in the real estate market in North Idaho. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the notifications bell so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Our team gets calls, texts, emails every single day from people like you trying to learn more about North Idaho. So if you guys are thinking about making that move, give us a holler. We'll get that conversation started. All right, we're going to dive right in. Eric and I are going to break down some numbers for you guys and discuss if you have missed the boat or not. Did a video about a year back on the same topic. So you can refer back to that one as well if you're looking for a little bit older information, but this should be up to date for 2026. Lots of questions about this. This video is in direct result of getting a lot of comments and emails asking about that. People are always calling us and being like, dude, oh man, did I miss the boat? Is it too late?
Well, I wish I would have bought 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. We all wish, right? Yeah. I wish I bought 10 years ago. That would have been amazing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we didn't. And here we are. So, well, you might have.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
I bought in like 2015.
So we're going to break down some numbers for you guys, talk about population growth, median income, all of that stuff. And I think that will paint a clearer picture on what kind of shape you're in if you're looking at North Idaho right now, 2026. Let's start with population growth and migration trends. Idaho is growing. This is no secret. It is not because of us. Somebody out there is going to make a nasty comment that it's because of us. I would make the argument that Eric says this all the time, that states are competing for qualified citizens, and Idaho is winning right now. In the people that are moving here are incredible. They are community focused. They are contributors to society. They have good values. All of these things, and that's why they're moving here. And we want people like that. In fact, I think we need more people like that.
I think every state should want people like that.
They should. But we'll take them all.
Yeah.
Because, you know, whether you believe it or not, there's a holy war or a war between good and evil going on in the world right now. And I think that, you know, circling the wagons, there's some value in that, right? So I look at it in that regard. Maybe that's a little far-fetched. Maybe it's too conspiracy theorist for you. But that's kind of what it feels like to me. Someone said it on here a while back that they said that God is building an army in North Idaho. And I was like, I don't know that that's wrong.
Man, I'm not sure we've ever experienced anything like this in our history, and I don't want to go down a conspiracy theory either. This is just but this is just what I look at with national trends, right? The one thing that happened during the pandemic, I think we're good at saying that now, but the one thing that happened with that is people began to realize that telework was an option, and I don't know if we've ever had the opportunities that we have now to actually pick where you want to live, knowing that you can still have a sustainable income there. So I don't know a better way to, there's probably an economist out there that's a better word, but the averaging of median home incomes, you know, whereas before you had to travel all the way out to Seattle, Portland, LA in order to get a high paying job with high salary. That's not really the case anymore. There's a lot of people that can get really good, you know, well-paying jobs while still selecting where they live. And a lot of times that's inland because they're starting to pick states based on, you know, their philosophies of child education and, you know, whatever qualities there are about that state that match their own values. They're starting to select places to live based on that. And Idaho has a lot of favorable ones. A lot of clients have shown me their breakdown of different states where they're looking at taxation, property rights, you know, Second Amendment rights, education rights, and they're going down a list of all the states in the country, and Idaho comes out at or near the top.
Yeah.
I do want to go back real quick. Did you miss the boat? It completely depends on what you think missing the boat looks like.
Yeah.
Is there still an opportunity to move here? Absolutely. Right? You just have to have realistic expectations of what housing costs are now. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's no greater reasons than states like, you know, California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado that are minimizing people's individual rights. And a lot of people saw that in spades during COVID when they just removed so many personal rights from people. So then people started looking at states where you had a little bit more individual freedom, minimal government intrusion. That's still here. That boat hasn't changed. A lot of people say Idaho's changed so much with more people here. Traffic can be a pain in the ass. I experienced that this morning. But, man, those values, those small town values remain here, even though we're a growing city.
And even as we grow, there are numbers to back this up. I don't have them on. Maybe you can look them up. Idaho is becoming more conservative.
Right.
So you will hear people that have been here a long time, and they're like, oh, they're complaining about the growth. I get it. But to them, I would say every small town in America is growing, right? The town I grew up is not the same town that it is today. So it's just happening. We have to embrace it, and we have to make sure that we attract the right people here that will embrace the lifestyle and assimilate to the culture and not try to change the culture, right? The culture is very good the way it is.
Yeah, please don't come up here and try to change a whole bunch back to the way it was, wherever you're coming from. Idaho's a special place in that regard. You can walk downtown freely and safely. I always say the cop in me says, lock your car, make yourself a hard target. But if you forget, I don't know how many times you have, but I certainly have, and I'm like, it's not a huge deal.
Not a big deal. I did it today.
Our officers are very committed to our brand of policing, which is, making people uncomfortable that are going to victimize some of our citizens here. So keep that strong in Idaho. It's what makes it a unique place. But man, when you're talking about missing the boat, there's still an awesome opportunity to come here and raise the kids the way you want with minimal government intrusion, lower taxation with your gun right, all of that stuff. You just have to be realistic about what you're going to pay.
Yeah.
If all you're doing is looking back at 2015 and saying, I want to pay that much for a house, because Idaho was always known as being a poor state, and it really was. I mean, Idaho was one of the poorest states in the country, in the 80s and 90s. And now, with the ability for people to expand, and then some of the infrastructure that's coming in here and the businesses it's bringing here, and the ability to go into Spokane and work there, those prices aren't coming back.
They aren't. And you don't have to like it, but you do have to accept it, or you just won't buy a home here. That's the reality of it.
And look elsewhere. But I would say, a lot of those other states are going to be in the same boat that Idaho is, where, people can, the averaging is what I called it, where that income is going to start to, kind of compress. So it's not high income on the coast and then really low income inland. Mm-hmm. That's going to start to average out a little bit.
Which is fine, because the people that are living here working remotely, they are spending their dollars locally in this community, right? So it injects cash into our community,
right?
Which is fantastic in my opinion. We also have a lot of retirees that are coming here on pensions. They've got good pensions, a lot of them, which is fantastic. So thank you for those people, because they're also injecting that cash flow into this community.
And an underappreciated part of it, they're not impacting the infrastructure.
Not that much.
They're not going into jail. Like, they're not the ones that are taking up beds at the local jail or burdening our court system. Or, people get in trouble. That's part of it. But, they're not the ones out there tearing up the roads either and using up the police officers' resources. So, again, I think it's all a matter of perspective. It always comes back to that. I don't think you miss the boat. You just have to have a realistic expectation of what things cost here now. And honestly, I don't see them dropping a whole lot.
There's too much buying pressure. This is the conversation I have a lot, is the amount of people that call our team specifically. I can track that. I don't know how many other agents are getting calls, but we get a lot every day, literally every day, multiple times a day. There are that many people that are willing to make the sacrifice to move their families, sometimes all the way across the country, to find a place that matches their values. Like, that's hard to beat. The sacrifices we've seen, sometimes moving from a higher paying job to a lower paying job, sometimes, pulling kids out of a good school that they like, or moving away from family, all of those things. People are doing it every day up here because it's that important to them. So yeah, when I get a call and they're like, oh, I hear that the market's going to crash in Idaho, I'm like, that's wishful thinking on someone's part, but it's not the reality that we're seeing on the street every day.
It's not to say it can't happen. If it does, we have a far bigger national problem at that point.
We have a bigger problem. And in fact, if that were the case, I'd rather be here anyway, because when things fall apart, Idaho is a very sovereign state.
Right.
People love their freedoms here and don't like government intrusion as much. So I'm all for that.
Right. I always joke and say, I'm not going to promise Idaho's not going to fall, but if it does, it's going to be the last one.
Yeah.
Right.
There'll be a bunch of dudes with boots on that go down.
Yes. So I just think that part, but it is fascinating talking to people that are breaking it down and they're making all these sacrifices. It's so much different. We're almost seeing a shift in our country on what people are valuing now. It used to be, I want to be close to the ocean. I want to be on the beach. I want to have, sunshine and all that stuff. And now it's very much more about values and principles. Is the public education system going to allow me to be a part of my child's education and have a decision on what they ingest, while they're in school? Do I have a say? Can I do homeschooling there, right? There are a lot of these questions that are coming up with people. And Idaho, for the most part, as a sovereign state, has said, look, we want parents to have, even in high school when they're talking about the trade schools, the governor was talking the other day about that. It's the one thing I actually picked up out of that. But he's talking about the emphasis on trade schools, and that's being paid for. That's a reinvestment in our youth.
Right.
It's different. It's not going there for liberal arts studies. It's actually going welding, electrician, diesel mechanic, nursing, stuff that's going to give back to the community.
Not like my degree in underwater basket weaving, which really has provided no value in my life.
I've got one of those too, man. But yeah, I want to break some of these down. It is the fastest growing state from 2020 to 2025. We had a 10.4% growth.
That is cooking, man. Adding, what are we at, 29, almost 29,000 residents. So creeping up over 2 million, which does not sound like a lot. It's a big state. And there is room for growth. I'm not saying we want every person in the country to move here by any means, but you look at that compared to the population of LA, it's like a fraction of that for the whole state.
And 90% of those were actually, they called them net migration, but from other states, right? Where it's just people deciding, for whatever reason, life happens, or they just decided that state's no longer for them and no longer represents their values. But 90%, then 10% were from outside of the country. I'm guessing a decent percentage of those are Canadians. Brothers and sisters up north.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of calls from Canada lately, and we feel for you guys up there. Yep. Canada's like a lot of these other states where you've got just really good salt of the earth people living their lives out in the country, being told how to live their lives by these dense urban populations that, I don't know if it's what they put in the water there. I'm not sure.
Alberta, we see you.
Yeah,
we see
100%.
You. Awesome people from
working
up there.
In the oil fields. Come
Busting
on down. You know how to work. So yes, looking at that, let's see. Okay, so projected estimate Idaho's population will grow 15% by 2034. What's that? Your math guy. Another 300,000 people by 2034.
Yeah, roughly. That's pretty close.
So less than 10 years. That's quite a bit, dude.
Yeah, and here's the frustrating part, and I'll hammer this again. I know it's hard to see this. When I bought a house, the median income in Kootenai County was $192,000, $192,100. So $192,000 was the median home income in 2015 in Kootenai County. Mm-hmm. Now, $593,000.
The home value.
Yes,
the median home value.
Median home price.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's significant, man. So people automatically start to assign that to value.
Yeah.
Right.
It's overvalued. I'm not paying that.
I say it all. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
That's way too much. It's way too much. It's too expensive. That's overpriced. Man, value that's such a moving target. Value is what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Exactly. It's not dictated by the realtor selling the home.
No.
It is what someone is willing to pay for it, and people are willing to pay for it. So that's what it is.
Because they're coming from a place where they saw what's going on with their kids in school, or they were forced. All of those things that have happened in the last 5 years that maybe shook up people's sense of their own individual freedom. So, I definitely see some of those. And even from last year, man, it was 549. So it's gone up, 44,000.
Yeah, we hit people are like, oh, the market's coming down up there. I mean, it is not. It did come down because we hit that peak, that definitely inflated peak right after the pandemic. And that got wild. It was gross. Nobody liked it. Even people making money in that world did not like it because it was soul crushing for a lot of people trying to make the move up here. Thankfully, it's come down from that, but we've already seen that down, and now it's plateaued and with a slight increase. Not a crazy growth like we saw back in 21, 22, but it is slowly growing, as you can see here, even in the last year, up 4%. And that's more of a healthy, sustainable growth.
Yeah.
So that would be expected. But, will we see a huge jump again? And I don't think so unless something crazy happens at the federal level, at the nation level, and people feel a desperation to get out, maybe.
Washington changed the Constitution to allow for a state income tax.
Right.
Something
like that.
I mean,
sorry, Washington. I heard that went down today.
Yeah. Well, I think that was like it went through and got the first round of approval.
Okay, so it's not like officially happening, but it's going to happen. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That we're talking about Washington State, which a lot of people would look at the two. Oh, well, Washington State doesn't have an income tax. That's going to save you a lot of money over the year. Yes, but you've already looked at this. What's the overall cost of living? Even with that, wasn't Washington?
Oh, I pulled up the IRS stats and then broke it down individual tax burden per citizen, and they could break it down by states, and they don't include a lot of the creative ones like the gas tax, tobacco, alcohol, mileage tax, whatever, or vehicle registration. Those don't count. But when you break them down by state, even with the state income tax, Idaho ranked 11th, and the highest subcategory under that taxation was unemployment, because it's more of one for one because we have a lower population. But in Washington, they ranked 45th out of 50, and they didn't have a state income tax.
So it's not necessarily worth it to live over there. I mean, for a number of reasons. If you're a like-minded individual, you wouldn't want to be over there anyway. But you think you're getting a better deal. I'm saving all this money on income tax, but in reality, all of the other things will make up for it.
Oh, and the estate taxes, dude. That
they're getting hammered for that.
That cripples entire families. You have this generational home that's on Lake Washington that's absolutely beautiful that, grandfather paid, $120,000, $130,000 for when Seattle was going completely bankrupt, and then they've built this huge family estate, and then they pass away, and then they literally can't afford the taxes in order to keep it. It's such a somber reminder that in a lot of places you don't really own the land that you pay for.
But on the bright side, I mean, the crime and roads are in great condition over in Washington, right?
Are you trying? My eyes are
I'm
twitching.
rage baiting you. Yeah, I'm rage baiting you.
No, but I think that's why you get so many people that are moving, because I've said that before. Look, let's say you're sitting there and you're paying 45th out of 50 for individual taxes, in that state. That's your burden. But you're driving on a road that's perfect. Law enforcement's waving to you. It's no crime. You don't know anybody in your neighborhood that's ever had their car broken into. There's people are still struggling. Drugs are always going to be a thing, but you never see it, right? Like they're in treatment facilities. They get right. You wake up, sun's shining. It doesn't smell like human feces when you walk through downtown. Like that would be something a lot of people might look at and go, yeah, I'll pay more. Right? I'll pay more. I love my community. My kids are doing great in school. Like I know what they're studying. It translates well when they go to college, or trade school, or just go into the workforce. It's translating well. Those are all things you could look at and go, yeah, I'll pay more.
Yeah.
Is that happening? I'd say it's inverse.
Yep.
It's inverted. Yeah. Right? But truly, it's like the more taxes you pay, the shittier your state. It's wild. It's freaking wild to me. But I digress.
Let me throw another number out there. So days on the market, that's the average number of days that a home sits on the market. That's a good indicator of how healthy the market is doing. It's actually pretty high. It's higher than you would think. The average is around 90 days, 80 to 90, somewhere in there. And it's down 3%. So that shows you that, no, you have not missed the boat, because that number's coming down a little bit. Homes aren't flying off the shelves at the moment. Mm-hmm. If they're priced right, yes. Sometimes, a good agent will get in there and price it to sell, and it will move quick. But for the most part, that average will tell you what's going on. If it was 3 days on the market, then I would be a little concerned that I'd be missing the boat.
It's a tough deal right now, though, right? Because you talked about how housing prices dropped a little bit since they were at their peak.
Yes.
And some of those people bought then, and now they're ready to sell now, and they don't want to lose money, and I totally get that.
It's a tough spot to be.
Sometimes they remember what their home was worth, and when they go to an agent, and they're like, hey, this is what I want to price it. It's a tough deal when you just got to show them, say, here's the comps that's not going to sell for that anymore.
You're not the first person in the history of the world to buy a home at a high market and then face the consequences when it comes down. It sucks. If you can hold on to it, hold on to it.
Yep. But
So the market outlook, experts are saying it. We're seeing it on the ground. I see a steady housing market, like healthy housing market, no major swings. Unless heads start rolling from the Epstein files, maybe. We'll see. That'd be nice. That could change things. But overall, with the amount of buying pressure that we have here, and I don't see it changing drastically anytime soon.
No, and what makes North Idaho especially unique is just the geographic parameters that we have. They're not making any more dirt. Right. And we're in this panhandle. We've got mountains to our east. We've got mountains to our west. We've got Washington State to our west. There's just kind of this. And then he pushes out to Shoshone where you get into Superfund and it's a little funky. but there's just a limited amount, and there's only so much prairie that can get bought up. And I love some of those holdout farmers are like, nah, I don't know how long they'll hold out.
It's a matter of time.
Yep.
Some developer's gonna throw enough cash at them, and it will sell.
But that's why new construction, you've got 80 sales per month, which I think is a pretty good, barometer of growth.
Yep.
Because new construction, that's just new people moving in there, right? Maybe some are coming from local, moving out of apartments or whatever. But otherwise, it's kind of a one-for-one swap. If you're buying an existing home.
Yeah.
So adding 80 more homes to Kootenai County, that kind of gives you an idea on the growth.
And they're selling.
Yeah.
Right. I've had a few people reach out lately in a panic, feeling like they need to buy something right now. And I'm like, pump the brakes, right? Yes, this is our business, but we also take good care of our clients like their family. So I will tell them, like, you're going to be fine. I don't want you to come in and panic buy something and then in a year tell us you regret it, right? I would rather you take the time, pick out the perfect property for you if you're thinking about moving up here, and then get into it. Maybe come up here and rent month to month for a little while. Feel out the area if that's the case. But I've talked to a few people off the ledge lately, and I'm like, just hold on.
It is a bit of a weird time of year. Typically, we have a lighter inventory this time of year.
Yes.
It's weird weather patterns, so maybe we're getting a few more hitting the market earlier than is.
It's almost like unnatural weather patterns.
Yes. Oh, gosh, here we go. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of a weird year, so it might bump a little early in the springtime, but people are always kind of just feeling it out. When there's instability nationally, people are always nervous about spending more money than they've ever spent before in their life, so I totally get and appreciate that. But on the flip side, if you're coming from a place where it's possible to like pick up a house and really lowball somebody because there's not a bunch of buyer pressure, you're not going to be able to do that here.
It's not the place.
It's just not realistic, and our community is still small enough to where you'll have interactions with those people again. It's just a tough deal, you know. Short of a house needing a ton of work or discovering something in an inspection that's all jacked up, that's going to take a significant amount of money to repair it. Just lowballing somebody like crazy, it just doesn't, work out. It doesn't jive because there's buyer pressure.
So much. And gone are, there's 5 other people in line to buy that house, right?
Right.
And gone are the days where you could buy 20 acres in a 3,000 square foot house for $250,000. Like,
yeah, dude.
Just be realistic if you're going to call.
Do a
little research. Download our app.
Yes.
Look at the home prices up here before you call, and if it works for you, absolutely, we'd love to help you. But if not, there are cheaper places to live, and it's probably for a good reason. Keep that in mind. But we always want people to have realistic expectations when they're coming up here.
Yep. I don't think it's, did you miss the boat on finding a screaming deal out here? Maybe. Like the values have changed.
Yeah.
People's values have changed.
Right.
Like you that are listening, your values have changed. Some awesome people that listen to us a lot, they've uprooted their families out of a place where they've raised kids, and just their values just no longer reflected by the state that they live in, and they don't want to, they don't want their hard-earned money going to that. Yeah,
I mean, for my family, you can't put a price on the feeling it is to live in Idaho coming from another state, where there was an enormous pressure on my shoulders that I did not know was there all the time. That stress, worrying about my family's safety, worrying about my wife and kids going downtown in, even a small town where we lived in Northern California, and there were raging, crazy homeless people on the streets, and it takes away quality of life.
Right.
And to come here and not have that feeling, have my kids thrive in the community here and my family thrive, and not worry about their safety while they're walking around downtown. I can't put a price on that. I too would, and I did sacrifice a lot to make that move, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yep. Very similar boat, man, and I just think it's really, really tough. I think there's awesome opportunity here. If you're one of those, and we have a lot of really smart people here, innovative entrepreneurs that are here. I think there's opportunity because, this area is still the growing city with a small town mentality, and there's some opportunities out here for businesses and entrepreneurs. I see a lot come here from other states where you're kind of like, this is cool. That's a different idea. We hadn't thought about a concept like that. Right. I still think, and there are those networks here. Go down to the Innovation Den and talk to those guys.
Bunch of brains
you
down
can't walk out of there without being motivated.
Yeah.
But there's some cool concepts coming down the pipeline, and I think this area is ripe if you're engaged and motivated. I'm always pushing, good industries to come out here because I want our kids to come out of trade schools and have good jobs and keep it in state. We want to keep our talent in state. That's the next big domino to drop, right? Like Aero Precision, I'm talking to you. Why don't you get that company out of that state? Get your asses over here. Dude. You put a lot of butts in that freaking facility. But no, that would be cool. Just to have a few of those out here.
Yeah. Final thoughts, I guess. No, you haven't missed the boat. That's what we're getting at with this. But be realistic with your expectations of what it's going to cost to make the move up here. And I hope you can afford it, because it is everything that we say it is. We promise you that. If you meet us in person, we are exactly the same in person as we are on camera.
I don't usually have a mustache.
That's true.
I had drill this weekend, so I apologize.
It's rough on the eyes.
Yes.
If you remember Sergeant Slaughter from the 80s and 90s, Google that and superimpose that picture over Eric, and you will know. You will know. That will say everything you need to know.
Not allowed within 200 feet of a Chuck E. Cheese right now. It's terrible. Sorry, I'm going to be back to normal in no time.
I can't wait.
No, I 100% agree with you. But if you see value in moving to Idaho, so do other people. And then it's just assigning what they're willing to give up for that. And that's where those prices come from. This isn't greedy real estate agents that are like trying to. Our job is to represent a seller and provide them, get them a contract with the best terms, conditions that we can possibly get for them and their family, because they're moving on to the next chapter.
Right, and the home prices are based on other homes that have sold. So you can't just make up numbers. Otherwise, people might not see the value in that. And like you said, it's worth what someone will pay for it. And if no one's going to pay for it, that's not what it's worth.
Instead of blaming people in real estate, blame Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, those states whose policies made it damn near uninhabitable for good, productive members of society that aren't going to jail and victimizing other members of the community.
That's the problem.
Right? Those people are finally looking at it going, okay, what am I spending my money for? Mm-hmm. Where's all my time? And then they're coming up here. They're finding freedom here.
Yeah, and we will take you. If you're a contributing member of society and you have good values and, want to love your neighbor and say hi to people on the street, we'll take you.
Absolutely.
100%.
And stay an engaged community member. Pay attention to local politics,
Please
right?
Vote.
Yes, absolutely. It's important. I don't care which way you vote.
Just express your opinion one way or the other.
Yep.
I do care a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. But I think once you get up here and you get around other people, it could even change some minds. Like, because we talked about that, because we talk about R's and D's all the time.
Yeah.
D's especially. No, but we talk about R's and D's all the time. I don't care, man. To me, it's about, because there's some topics where I tend to lean a different direction, right? I don't just follow party lines. I try to look at each one independently.
Yep.
You come here and you get around neighbors and you start talking to other people and you're like, well, it's fascinating, because I would have thought differently about this policy on decriminalizing all drug use. And then I come here and my kids can go to the park and play. And there's no defecation when I step out of the grocery store, right? Like that's
now you see why,
right?
Yeah, it seems like a hard line at first. And you're like, even marijuana.
Yes.
Now you see why.
Right. Absolutely. So, no, I don't think you missed the boat. We're incredibly proud to be engaged community members in this local area.
Yep.
Other people to be proud too. You just have to understand you don't set the prices, man.
100%. So here's my sales pitch. If you're thinking about making the move, call us, please. We've got a killer team behind us, all former first responders and or veterans, and a bunch of studs and what's a female version of a stud? Whatever that is. Studette.
There we go.
And we will help you guys make that move. We will give you the information so you can make the right decision for your family. We're not salesy at all. So give us that call. If you want to look at home prices up here, download our app. We have our own app. We can see the back end. Your information does not get sold to anybody else. And it's a very useful tool for looking at home prices up here. And also we have a resources tab on there that has all manner of businesses that we have personally vetted or our clients have vetted that are honest, good businesses that you can rely on, whether it's contractors, things like that. What else are we pitching? So we got the app. Look for our court watch that's coming. Eric and I have been working on that right now, and we have partnered with some other folks and set up a separate LLC to run the Idaho Court Watch, and hopefully that will become a model for all of Idaho, in which case we're going to be rating the judges in the area so that the population can make an informed decision when it comes time to vote for judges.
Yeah, and we won't be rating them. This will be purely but this will purely be data collected from people that are working within the court system so that you can be an informed voter, which I can't, out here that still matters. right? Like that your vote still matters. So we just want people to have a collection point where they can go. There's nothing more frustrating than looking at the ballot and going, judges, I have no idea. Well, we want you to have some of that knowledge when you get out there. So I did want to bring up one other thing, jobs, right? Because we have our median age here has gone up. It's well into the 50s because a lot of people are retiring up here. Great community members. That's awesome. But, obviously we want families and, kids to grow up and, go to school here and stay here, keep some of those. Biggest industries out here of growth right now are construction, no surprise, healthcare, and tech.
Yep.
And our unemployment rate was pretty stable, 4%. So there's
tech is a surpriser for a lot of people because everybody, not everybody, some people think this is just a little redneck podunk area, but it's really not at all.
Sharp people here.
Very much.
I'm not sure I totally believe that all of them are, the tech. I think college tends to do that to you, but they're all totally left-leaning. There's a lot.
They're not, and I've made that statement before and been yelled at. So they're right. There are a lot of, and what's going to come back to values. There's a lot of folks with really good values up here that are community-minded, that are in the tech industry and rocking it, building killer businesses. Yeah,
the healthcare, that one's massive. Kootenai Health, Northwest Specialties growing like crazy. If you dip into Spokane, Multicare and Deke and all those, there's a lot of healthcare opportunities here if you guys are in that field. So
cool.
Yep.
Well, hope this was informative and maybe eased your mind a little bit if you're getting that fear. We don't want you to make a fear-based decision, make an informed decision. So give us a holler. We'll talk it through with you, shoot an email, whatever works for you. And we can get your questions answered on this end. And from there, it's up to you guys.
Cheers, guys.
Later.